First things first, I need to preemptively apologize to you all. This video is not going to be my best work. Not to say that I do great work on the regular, but this one in particular is probably going to be a little bit meh, because I actually recorded and edited a video on Tobot W here like yesterday, but in a moment of, I guess, lack of clarity in my brain, I inadvertently and accidentally deleted the video before I uploaded it, which means it's just gone. It ceases to exist. All of that time and effort I put into recording the video and editing it is just gone, completely for nothing. So I'm doing it again. So yeah, I don't have it in me to do things quite as extensively as I did that first time. To be honest, the mood I was in after realizing what I'd done, it's a miracle this YouTube channel still exists, because I was that mad. But I'm doing it again, and I'm just not going to be as thorough as before. But here we are looking at Tobot W, the new Tobot W, released in 2024. As with a lot of the Korean toys that I get, didn't know it existed, randomly saw one of the channels that I subscribe to that like does videos on these kinds of toys every now and then, just had this there and it's like, that looks interesting, and then I looked at it and was like, oh, well, cool. So then I ordered through Gmarket, which I'm going to try to remember to put the link to the Gmarket video up there as well as down in the description. We'll see if I remember to do that. Otherwise, you can search the channel for it. But yeah, I ordered this through Gmarket, it showed up, and it is very cool. Got some articulation issues that I'll get into, obviously, in robot mode, but it is a pretty darn cool figure. Now, this is some stylized Hyundai car. Got the logo, and it is neat. Very black and white, but I like how the colors are distributed with the line that goes all the way around the side, or the outsides. The top section with like the windows and the roof being all in black is nice. There's this nice silver line that goes along the trim between the doors and the windows all the way around the back and to the other side. The back has the taillights done in multiple colors with like the black outline, but then you've got the red and the silver in there. Some pantograph details in there. You've got Tobot W and the Hyundai logo in the back there. And then the rear light along here is also kind of a neat design. I like how it goes all the way across. And it kind of mimics the headlights up front, which go along here. And even though they're just like, it's just clear plastic, it does stand out on the white, which I like. And then you also have some extra painted detailing in here, the Tobot W for the license plate, all that good stuff. I do kind of feel like it's a missed opportunity to have something on the back license plate as well, because they have it on the front, but whatever. Now, this section here, these headlights do light up. This guy comes with a little plastic case thing that's supposed to look a little bit like a smartphone, as well as 3 cards. I showed those off originally. I'm not grabbing them again. I'm sorry. But they're just cards. You slide in and out. They're double-sided, so you can choose what's on the phone. It doesn't do anything. It's just a piece of plastic that you put cards into. But there's like a magnet or something in part of it. And if you tap the magnetized part close to the hood, this light bar lights up. I can't show that off because this does not come with batteries. There is the battery compartment right under here, and it's not going to be super easy to show off, but it does take 3 LR44 batteries. I don't have 3 LR44 batteries, unfortunately. I used to have a stockpile of button batteries as well as other batteries, but since the East Coast has become a furnace, thanks to capitalism, it's just that all my batteries that I had stockpiled for a couple of years started leaking, and so it's just I don't have them, and I didn't feel like buying a bunch of new batteries for the sake of this. So unfortunately, cannot show the light up feature off, but it does light up. I believe you can tap it to have it turn on, tap it to have it blink, or tap it to have it like very slowly fade in and out, and then of course turn off. Tap it to turn it off. But that is it for the car mode, and it is Nice, sturdy. It's a Tobot figure, so it's a nice, sturdy, hefty, chunky car mode. And also kind of big as Tobot. Let's bring in our size comparisons here. We've got Dinobot, who has not only been yellowing, but also now appears to be sweating some kind of junk in places. Ova Prime as our tall deluxe stand-in, and Samus. So there is that. Again, I normally would bring out a bunch of Hello Carbot and Tobot figures to do size comparisons, but I'm still mad about the video that I deleted. So this is all you're getting. I apologize for that, but it's kind of a small miracle that I'm forcing myself to reshoot this in the first place. Again, as I said at the beginning of the video, the fact that this YouTube channel still exists after how mad I was is kind of a testament to how devoted I am to this. But here is Tobot W with Velocitron Burnout, way bigger than a deluxe. Not as big as like old school Tobots, but at this point I don't have any old school Tobots to show off anymore for size comparisons, so you just have to take my word for it. And finally, for the most important of size comparisons, here is Tobot W with the Duck Tank. Now, before we transform Tobot W here, just a quick, even though I don't think I've earned it for this one, but a quick Patreon and Ko-fi plug. I got links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description if you'd like to support the channel. Otherwise, you could do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. Now, transforming this guy. There's a lot going on here, but it's still pretty simple. It's just a little bit more complex than like your average Tobot. But I'm going to start by unplugging the arms and bringing them up. There's just this peg here that pegs into the torso there. So just unpeg and bring up the arms. Now I'm going to take this little flap back here and pull this down. It's on like a kind of double hinge. It's clear plastic, but it's really thick clear plastic, so I think it'll be okay. But bring that down. Now you want to kind of pop the front and back sections apart. As you can see, they kind of clip in like that. And then it's a little bit tricky to finagle this so that things get around other things because there's like this little hinge in here that kind of catches in here, but you basically just kind of pull back and some of the ratchets in there should click out of place and get this pulled back further. And with that pulled back further, now you can unfurl what will obviously become the legs and bring those down. And the hips are forward like this for the vehicle mode, so bring those back. Now, I forgot to do this in the original video, so I'm going to do it now. These door sections here, click back for some added flair. And pull up these little windows here, or doors rather. Push in to flip around the feet, and then flip out the heels. Split the legs, and for these things, the directions don't make it clear exactly how this is supposed to go, and it seems like you could leave them like this. You could bring them up more. But that, I don't really like the way that looks. It kind of seems like if you wanted to, you could bring them down so that they're kind of resting on top of this little lip here. But then you get this kind of ugly view of the hinge from the top. So what I end up doing is I just kind of bring this down and let where these two hinge sections stop is kind of a natural place for this, and that I think that looks pretty good because it hides the hinge relatively well. It looks like knee pads. It doesn't completely obscure the thighs. So that's how I have that situated. And you can see he's kind of leaning forward a bit. So what I do also is bring the knees back a single click on the upper hinge, not the lower hinge, because there is a hinge down here. But just one click on the upper hinge, and that gets him to stand up just fine. And I will talk about those feet and knees a little bit more once we finish with the transformation. Now for the upper body, I'm going to take the wheel and the wheel slides this way, and this will also pull the door down with it, or up with it, depending on which way you're looking at it. So from here, it's down. So this comes down, and it will click out of place and into place. It's a little bit stiff, but it does go. And there you can see the peg for the door. So you want to bring this down till it clicks, and then rotate this down at about 45 degrees. It will kind of softly thunk into place. So bring that down. Now this can come out. You can reach in here, flip out the fist. You want to bend the elbow and rotate the bicep. And the reason you want to bend the elbow is because if you bring the arm down when it's straight, this peg will crash into this piece here. So if you bend the elbow, it actually gives you more clearance. So bring that down. And you also want to take this little flap here, bring that up, and then you can straighten out the arm, and it'll just go out like a click. This piece, you actually fold this out, and it gives you a little wingtip. And right up here, take this piece and fold that down to fill out the shoulder piece. And that is one arm. Second arm is the same deal. We'll just do the forearm stuff now. And flip out the fist, flip up the little fin. Also rotate it. And we'll bend the elbow too, just so that it's preemptively out of the way. And now pull the wheel and click it into place. Bring this out at a 45-degree angle. Swing this out. Swing out with a wingtip. Bring the arm down. And then fold around the shoulder piece. And then just fold down the front of the car and fold this back. This unfortunately does not click in place, just sits. I wish this came back a little further and actually soft blocked, because it's really easy to accidentally push this back up. It doesn't like super get in the way, but it doesn't look great. I just wish it folded back a little bit more, but yeah, whatever. And there we have Tobot W in robot mode, and this is a cool looking Tobot W. It is very wingy, which is very Tobot W from my experience, because most popular video on my channel is a video on Tobot W Shield On for some reason. I do not understand why that video is as popular as it is. It's a much older video, and it's just so weird and obscure, but for some reason that thing really took off. I think this design works way better for Tobot W, though. Now, since I said I was going to talk about it, I will talk about these legs real quick. When transforming this guy, if you notice the way the feet are arranged, they don't line up perpendicular to where, like, they don't line up where you think they would. You'd think they'd be kind of perpendicular to the rear car section, but you can actually see there is a cut in the foot that lines up with this tab and everything here. So the foot is supposed to sit like this, meaning it is intended to sit at an angle. And now, something to keep in mind with that is, let me rotate this around so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. This first joint here, as this moves, it kind of stops. It wants to stop here. You can push further, and it does a really sharp and solid click into place, but that's wrong. That is, I think, not intended, and that ends up having him going like way forward, or in this case back, because the thighs rotated around all the way. But yeah, that's not right. So for that lower joint, you actually want to push it like it. You get some nice soft ratchets, not soft, but some nice sturdy ratchets to a point, and then it just stops and feels like you can't go any further. Don't push it past that. Not because I think it'll break something, though I'm unsure whether or not it will, but because pushing it forward just kind of throws off balance. So that is why that's like that. And also, if you, like at first when I got this guy, I thought what you were supposed to do was take the foot and kind of fold this in a bit and then use this to kind of brace the foot so that it sits more like this. But again, you can see there's that carved out section in there. So like, no, it's supposed to be like that. So just don't push that lower joint on the knee too far, basically. So yeah, the design of this guy. Very cool, very wingy. He is relatively clean, all things considered. Like, he's got the door wings, actual, like literal wings, and these bits sticking off, but I think these are supposed to be like thrusters or something. There's also a thruster back in here, which I think is a neat detail, right back in there. Though there's this scuff on there that I noticed when I was doing the video before, and I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it was there originally, and that's kind of a bummer, but at the same time, it's on his back, like the underside of his back, so it's not like it's something I'm going to be seeing a whole lot of. Is this... This does not seem to be residue. This seems to be a legit scrape or scratch on the plastic, so... Oh well. I don't know if I did that during transformation or what. I don't think I did, but... Oh well. And yeah. The colors on this guy also are great. Like, I like that you still get the black and white from the car mode, but now you get some much more interesting additional colors, like the blue and the little orange accents. And I like that it kind of comes into play in a few different places. Like the orange you primarily get on the knees, hips, and shoulders, like insides of the shoulders, but then you get a little bit on the fronts of the shoulders and the head. And the blue you primarily get in the feet, if you look at it from a certain angle, the waist section, the forearms, the shoulders, and the head. And you also get gray for the thighs and the biceps. So like it mixes up the colors really nicely. Blue and orange work really well together because they're complementary colors. It's all good stuff. And then the detailing, there's some nice molded detailing all over this thing, on like the thighs, the insides of the legs, the whole waist and midsection. Like, even in here, they molded in some nice details that get covered up by the hood, but if you're looking at it from the side, it does still kind of show through. And also nice molded details in the forearms, biceps, and all that. Another thing I think is kind of neat is they painted this black trim around the feet, including the heels. So it goes all the way around, inside and out. I appreciate that detailing. I don't know. And also a nice silver belt buckle, I guess, that has W on it. Some other nice silver accents in the arms and shoulders, and yeah. It's a neat looking robot. He cuts a good silhouette. The little like forearm wings, and then the wings on the back, and the little thruster things, like it all comes together, I think, really nicely. Now for the head, I'm going to remove his head because this is a newer like one of the new Tobot line figures, which means they can effectively do the headmaster thing. So we'll move his not transtector off to the side, and here we have the head. And I really like the head sculpt on this guy. I think it looks cool, but I also really appreciate how they did the thing that they've been doing with like the letter Tobots, like Z, Y, X, that kind of thing, where the letter that they are is represented in their head somewhere. Like for Z, the shape and lining around the face section of the helmet makes up a Z and like mirrored Z. And on W here, the way that this blue bit comes down in front of the visor makes a W, and that's really cool. Colors look great. The sculpt is pretty simple, but also looks good. And I also really like this added little like Gundam chin beard thing for the front there that's in blue that just, it works with the helmet, and I just think that's neat. The black for the visor inside that blue stands out really nicely. Now, because this is a little headmaster guy, you can pop open the head, rotate the face around 180 degrees and slam it back down, and then fold out these little arms on these ball joints, and you have a little guy. And the helmet is the exact same, but now you've got a pretty nondescript face where it's just white plastic with these little blue half circles painted on to make them look happy. But you do have the W in the chest. The arms are molded. It's very simple. And the articulation on this thing is very simple too. You just get the left and right spin. The arms can rotate around, and they can go back. You can't go up and down really because this is a ball joint that's seated pretty far in, so you don't really get any wiggle room. So it's pretty much just spin them around and like go back a bit, so you can have them be like, hug me, give me hugs. I don't know. But yeah, that's the little guy. Now, when it comes to the little fellows, I just don't have the energy to go through it now again, but I will say compatibility with other Tobot figures that do this is kind of hit and miss. Tobot Z, so I'm assuming also X and Y, it does not work. You cannot plug this guy into Tobot Z, and you cannot plug the little guy from Tobot Z into the larger Tobot W body. It's just the shapes are wrong. It does not fit. That being said, Tobot, the little W guy, can be plugged into the body of Twin Punch. And by extension, Hook and Jab can be plugged into this body. And I like that. I like that that kind of interplay between the different figures. It just bums me out that Tobot Z doesn't also allow for that. But like the shape of the body just will not work. So it cannot be plugged in there. And that is a bummer. And I don't really understand why, because like that's what they started with. So I don't really understand why they changed things so that the original releases don't work with anything else. It just seems like a missed opportunity, but whatever. Now, one thing I will also say about this thing with regards to Tobot W is when this guy plugs in, he plugs in really solidly, like almost too solidly. Getting this guy unplugged, you may have noticed, bit of a struggle. It's not terrible. I don't feel like I'm going to break anything, but it is much more difficult to unplug the little head guy from Tobot W than it is with any of the other Tobots that do the head swap thing that I own. So something to be aware of, I guess. Now for the articulation, the head, as you saw, does rotate, and it can rotate around. The arms, the arms are my gripe with the articulation because they're well articulated. They go around, they can go out to like about here normally, but you can move this flap out of the way and bring the arm out to 90. And that actually doesn't look too bad. So I like that you have that functionality. And then on top of that, you can rotate the wings. So they can go down like this or up and around if you really want to. You cannot bring them down any further than this, though, because they bang into the side mirror. Or no, that's the peg they're getting caught on. If you get the peg for the forearm out of the way, they bang into that side mirror, so you really can't bring the wings down any further, which is a little bit unfortunate, but whatever. But in addition to that, you get a bicep swivel, 90-degree bend at the elbow, and then the wrists do not rotate, but you can fold them in if you want for the transformation. And incidentally, you do get this big gap, like very big open gap on the forearm. I'm not terribly bothered by it, but it's there. Now, the thing that bugs me about the arm articulation is the detenting. The in and out motion on the arm, totally fine. Elbow, totally fine. The in and out motion, totally fine. It's this motion and the bicep rotation that kind of irritate me because the ratchets on the forward and backward motion, it's too strong to cheat. You cannot cheat those ratchets. It's either going to snap back to its original position or snap into the next position. That in itself isn't terrible, except you only get 2 clicks between 90-degree intervals. So if you want to do like a subtle tilt the shoulders back thing, it has to be back that far. I don't like that. The biceps are worse in that regard because they move at 45-degree intervals. So it's just 1 click and then straight, 1 click and then 90 degrees and so on. And that also bothers me. You can cheat these ratchets a little bit. They're strong, but they can be cheated. So you can get a slightly more subtle rotation on the biceps. That I'm thankful for, but I really don't understand why the bicep rotation is ratcheted, especially considering, or detented, especially considering the thigh rotation, which we will get to later, does not have any detents. So, like, why? Why? And I wish there were more detents on this motion, but there isn't. So, oh well. Moving on. The waist does rotate. It is also detented, but you can cheat the detents pretty easily, so that's nice. But the waist goes all the way around. I like that. The hips can go forward only a couple of clicks, but they can go forward. They can go back a couple of clicks. They can go out past 90. You get a non-detented thigh swivel. And now, one of the most impressive parts of this guy's articulation, you've got knees that bend well past 90, like well past. Granted, a lot of it is hidden behind car junk from this angle, but like you can see from here just how much of a bend you get going. And it's even carved in such a way right in here, you can kind of see right in there that it allows for it to bend that thoroughly. And I'm looking at this, that is not for the transformation. The knees don't actually bend that much for the transformation. So that's just them wanting to give this guy deep knee bends, I guess. Also, if you wanted to, you can use the lower joint for knee bends as well. It stops at about 90 degrees, or like the orange section about 90 degrees with like the flat part of this section here. Like this does not go any further. But then you can, of course, use the other joint to bend it even further. So you get, oh, no, okay, I guess it is for the transformation that bends in. Still, nicely articulated knees. Just remember, do not straighten the lower joint out all the way. Just when it stops moving, stop moving it. And then for the feet, you don't get any ankle tilts. They are fixed in place, but you can move them back if you want to, and you can also move the heel. Because of the weight of the figure, I wouldn't count on it for balancing. But if you were just using it for like posing, like if you wanted to look like he was pointing a toe or something like that, and you had a way to balance things out better, you could do something like that. And again, just got to remember to do the single click on the upper joint of the knee so that he is standing straight. But that is Tobot W, and he is a very cool figure that I really wish had slightly better arm articulation. And again, like the articulation isn't bad in terms of what's available. It's just limited because of the ratchets. And that is the biggest bummer to me with those arms. But again, like the transformation is cool on this guy. The look is really good. I like the colors a lot. And the articulation is there. It's just very fussy. Around the arms, at least. But yeah, I like this guy a lot. Now, for the size, bring in Dinobot and Tobot Prime, and Samus can stand there, and we'll bring in Burnout. So there is Tobot W with the usual size comparisons. And he's a Tobot, so he's quite big. He is, again, not as big as the old school Tobots, but I don't have any of those to show off anymore. As for newer stuff, he's bigger than a lot of modern Tobots, but he's about the same height as modern Helicarbots. Specifically, I put him next to Repos in the original video, and he's pretty much the same. Like, the plastic goes to about the same height with Repos. The heads are a little bit the proportions are drastically different on Helicarbots, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, cool figure, and also Duck Tank. And that does it for Tobot W. I am very sorry that this is not as thorough as I would have liked it to be. It's just, as I said, after foolishly and accidentally just completely disregarding the video I already made and edited for this guy, I just could not be bothered to do the entire thing again. And I apologize for that, but I was just still so unhappy about that. But I'd already made the video and I didn't want to like not make it and then accidentally think that I did make a video and never do it. So I'm doing it now. But yeah, the new Tobot W is very cool. I like these colors better than the Shield On colors. I don't have anything against the white and purple, but I like these colors better. Shield On was an older Tobot, is a little rickety, and this guy feels much better. The ratchets are really nice. The non-mechanical ratchets are also really nice. And I will say one thing that Shield On, and by extension the original Tobot W, had going for it was the fact that you could kind of tuck away the flight elements. You can kind of do that with this version of Tobot W, but not really. Like, you can fold the little winglets in on the forearms, you can fold the wings back on the shoulders, and you can fold these things in, which incidentally I kind of have to do that when I put this guy on a shelf because they stick out really far. But that's kind of all you can do to hide his flight elements. You can't do anything with these chunks to get them out of the way any further. Like, you can't swing them down more. The best you can do is like raise them up like he's got standards over his shoulders or something. I don't know. And yeah, it's I don't think it's a detriment to the figure that you can't tuck the wings away better. But I kind of think it would have been cool if there was a way to choose whether or not to have him in his I'm gonna fly mode or not. I phrased that weird, but you all know what I mean. But anyway, that is more than enough about what I think about this guy. I've already talked at length about him twice now, but you're never going to see that first one. So what do you all think of the new Tobot W, or the old Tobot W, or Tobot W Shield On? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and in the next video, we are going to be revisiting a classic, by which I mean figure that came out within the last few years, but is still kind of a classic anyway, for the fourth time, because I can't not get every single version of this figure that comes out.